Hey everyone, what's going on? I've got a juicy one for you because Silksong just picked up a fresh update, and it's the kind that actually changes how the game feels under your thumbs. I'm talking about patch 1.0.29242, and if you're playing on PC, you can grab it right now, with console versions following after submissions clear. I'll walk you through what's new, what's fixed, and how it all adds up once you're back in Pharloom, threading needles and dodging all the weird, wonderful horrors that live there. Let's kick it off with a headline that has players chatting in every corner of the community. A brand new simplified Chinese translation created by the fan group Team Cartfix is now officially in the game. This isn't some quick text swap. It's a carefully considered rewrite that keeps familiar names where they make sense and updates terms that didn't line up with the lore or tone of Hollow Knight and Silksong. If you've ever tried to keep all the threads of this world straight, the history, the illusions, the echoes of the previous game, you know how much weight a translation carries. This one is handled by people who understand the story's texture, so for players reading in simplified Chinese, it's going to feel more coherent and more faithful. Officially embracing a fan-created script also says a lot about the relationship between the devs and the community. When something's clearly working for thousands of players, Team Cherry is happy to bring it into the official build. That's pretty special, and it sets a great tone for future localization tweaks. Next up, controllers. If you've bounced between different pads, or you're that person who owns 3 adapters and 2 wireless dongles, this patch is going to make you nod in approval. The game now runs on Unity's input system. In practical terms, this means more controllers are recognized out of the box, rumble is improved, and the whole experience of mapping and detecting inputs is sturdier. It's not some abstract engine bullet point. You actually feel it in the way your pad wakes up. The consistency of vibration during heavy hits, and the reliability of inputs in long boss fights when your hands are sweating and you're half-pressing triggers by reflex. The team does note a few oddball combinations, like wired Xbox 360 pads on Mac possibly needing an extra driver, and a handful of Bluetooth wired quirks. But overall, the direction is clear. Broader compatibility, better feedback, fewer headaches. And yes, if you want to see Unity's current support matrix for devices and features, it's linked in the notes and worth a peek if your setup is exotic. On the graphics side, 2 subtle tweaks might make a bigger difference than you expect, especially if you're picky about image quality. There are additional levels for the dithering option, which helps smooth out gradients and reduce banding. And there's a new film grain toggle. Dithering defaults to low, film grain defaults off. If you're on a display where banding pops up in skies or those soft color fields Silksong loves to paint, bumping the dithering level can clean that right up without muddying the image. Film grain is one of those personal taste things. I tend to leave it off during platforming heavy sessions where I'm scanning the background for safe landings, but if you want a bit of texture, the option is there now, and it looks tasteful rather than overbearing. These are welcome, low-risk knobs that let you tune the look to your setup. Now, let's talk about the fixes and the feel of the game after this pass, because the list is a proper sweep. There's a big round of localization polish across all languages, which complements the translation change I mentioned earlier. Beyond text, there are concrete gameplay issues that got ironed out. If you ran into that odd situation where Styx didn't hand over rosaries after delivering the Queen's Egg, that's sorted. If you picked up Druid's Eyes and found they didn't equip right away like they were supposed to, that's addressed too. And here's a subtle one action fans will appreciate. Certain down attack colliders that could stick in rare instances should behave correctly now, so those precise pogo moments feel more trustworthy. It's the sort of fix you don't notice until a boss room flows just a bit smoother than you remember. There are also several cleanups around Hornet's plasmified state. In previous builds, there were instances where that state would clear when it wasn't intended, like during Bellway travel, or cases where it didn't trigger correctly if you killed a winged life seed instead of using the plasmium file. That kind of edge case behavior can be maddening because it breaks the mental model you build about how abilities chain together. After this update, those inconsistencies should be much rarer, letting you plan risky routes and fight scripts without fearing some weird interaction will short-circuit your run. Tool tweaks are part of the story, and 2 stand out. Multibinder gets attention on 2 fronts. First, the initial bind now clears maggots. This is one of those changes that sounds small until you realize how many times you found yourself stuck dealing with spillover enemies during a bind window. Second, the patch reduces those unintentionally long bind times when you've got the Shaman Crest in the mix. It's about smoothing the edges so the tool does what you expect, when you expect it. Meanwhile, the Wreath of Purity, a favorite for players who like to play clean, controlled sequences, has had its durability increased. If you're building around it, that extra durability gives you more wiggle room to actually leverage the tool's identity instead of babysitting it. And that means more confidence during longer exploration runs, where every encounter could turn into a resource drain. Enemies and bosses got a nudge too. Gurr the Outcast's trap throw has been reworked from a static single lob to a spin-style throw that should reduce those dead zones where you'd kite and wait. The Beastcrest Fury slashes now pierce as intended, which changes how you line up targets and can make certain hallway scuffles play out faster. Rune Rage had its damage scaling corrected, and Threadstorm's damage tapering was fixed, so additional hits don't fall off quite as sharply. If you've been experimenting with different needle levels and noting odd behavior, this should make your testing feel more consistent. These are the sorts of adjustments that don't radically rebuild encounters, but they smooth out expectations and add a bit of rhythm back into the fights that felt stuttery. There's a long tail of stability and polish in here too. Issues with regaining control when grabbed by a Wraith should be resolved. Couriers won't immediately offer the same delivery after you've completed it, and more of those rare through-floor shenanigans where Hornet could push certain enemy types in unintended ways have been tackled. Stun and kill interactions with the Harpoon on some bosses have been touched up, and the Fractured Mask now protects you as expected against vault hazards. It's a grab bag, but the through line is clear. Fewer oddities, fewer soft locks, fewer "wait, what just happened" moments. That's the right direction for a game where flow and precision are the whole experience. All of this arrives with a little note for console players. The build has been submitted and is on the way. That extra pipeline step is normal. Once it clears, you'll get the same suite of improvements and options on your platform of choice. If you're on PC and already playing, consider this an early chance. Tune your settings and get comfortable so you're ready to show friends on console exactly how the new inputs feel when they land. Let me zoom out and talk about why these changes matter once you're actually in motion. Silksong is a game about micro-decisions. The way you hop cancel into a pogo, the timing on a down stab to reset your aerial position, the route you choose through a fight to avoid being boxed in. Controller consistency is a hidden foundation for all of that. If rumble cues are accurate and inputs never ghost, you subconsciously trust the pad and let your brain focus on patterns instead of hardware. When that foundation is shaky, your skill ceiling drops without you realizing it, because you're spending processing power on "will my dash register?" instead of "when should I invuln?" This patch shores up that foundation. Even if your controller was already fine, the broader compatibility means your friends with different hardware can jump in with less fiddling, and that's a win for the whole community. The visual options are similar. Dithering and film grain won't change the layout of Pharloom, but they will change how easy it is for your eyes to separate foreground from background and how natural the palette looks on your specific monitor. If your screen struggles with gradient banding, those extra dithering levels can smooth the picture so that soft color fields don't distract you during platforming. Film grain can lend mood in slower sequences if you like a more tactile look. They're simple toggles, but in a precision platformer, anything that reduces visual noise without blurring the image is a practical upgrade, not just a stylistic flourish. The balance and bug fix list might read like housekeeping, yet these are the kinds of tweaks that make returning to a save feel better than you remember. When a tool like Multibinder behaves more cleanly, or when an interaction like Rune Rage's scaling is corrected, you don't have to relearn the rules from encounter to encounter, you build trust. The Gurr change is a perfect example of encounter pacing that acknowledges how players were cheesing or waiting out patterns. Transforming the throw into a spin reduces stalling and keeps you actively engaged. Meanwhile, fixing the Beastcrest Fury, slashes so they pierce as intended, supports aggressive playstyles that were promised on paper but inconsistent in practice. It feels like the team is carefully trimming the friction that isn't intentional, while maintaining the friction that is, because let's be honest, a big part of the thrill here is mastering demanding sequences.